Hi, I'm Randolph Miller, and welcome to another powerful segment of Bounce Around Charleston. I have here with me today Victoria Moore. She's a part of Tiny is Powerful. And then I have Pamela Gibbs. She's a cultural activist. And we're here to talk about an anti-racist book study. And the book that we're going to really cover is The Color of Law. And ladies, welcome to Bounce Around Charleston.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Okay, let's talk about, first of all, let me find out the title, Tiny is Powerful. What is Tiny is Powerful all about?
Well, Tiny is Powerful comes from a long history of art in with community to affect structural change. It's art and culture for social change, and it represents grassroots interracial, intergenerational collaborations between artists, activists, young people, educators, and local businesses on the ground. It's really about the strength that we have in numbers. We might be tiny, but we're not alone. And when we imagine together, and when we experiment together, and when we ask questions, and when we learn together, powerful things can and do happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, the anti-racist book study, how did that come about?
Well, last summer after the outrage of the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all the other killings that happened in the community, we were talking online, and I was talking with some of my teacher friends at James Simmons Montessori School. And, as we, talked online, we decided that we needed to do something. And I sent them a list of 40 anti-racist books for children. And, one of the teachers mentioned that maybe we should start our own anti-racist book study just among the adults before we even get to the kids. And so we started with a couple of books. We've read 2 books so far. Victoria, what are the 2 books that we've read?
We started with Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain, which really went into, as educators, observing and identifying internal and implicit biases. And then the second book that we read was Stamped from the Beginning, which is a pretty extensive history of the race and racism in America. And then now we're going on to read The Color of Law, which it is a really strong case for the role of the federal, state, local governments in neighborhood segregation.
Yes, I was reading a caption as I was looking at The Color of Law. It says, a forgotten history of how our government segregated America. What do you say about that?
Well, one of the things we talk about in school is that, children live in certain areas and everything, affects them. You talk about residential racism. So you're talking about environmental racism, you're talking about economic racism, and all of those things that affect whether or not children will thrive in school. So I just wanted to talk to the teachers and the community about all the lines from slavery on that kind of show us that this is systematic. And in order to deal with the problem that exists today, we have to deal with the systems that create it. And if government created the problem, then government needs to solve it.
So this is not your first time doing the study, am I correct?
No, this is the 3rd book, yes.
Okay.
But what last year, why we chose the book is Tiny is Powerful did an art project in North Charleston, and one of the video we showed at one of the meetings was um, segregated by design. And it was about a 17-minute video that was very powerful. And I wanted us to read the book it was based on, because I think as we try to find remedies or solution to the racism that exists today, I mean, just look at what's going on right now with the gosh, I'm trying to say, with President, former President,
Trump?
God, I can't even get his name up.
Trump?
Former President Trump, and the fact that should he be impeached, you know, and you look at what's going to happen, you're going to see that he's not going to be, he was impeached, but he's not going to be convicted, because you have this set of senators who won't move from the racism that exists in making the decision. And I'm just saying that the divide between the community is what we have to work on. We talk about unity, we talk about love, we talk about, you know, America is not racist. And if we don't be honest with each other, nothing's gonna get fixed. We're gonna stay where we are, and it's just gonna go on. And we need to be honest and authentic about how we try to solve the problem.
So we're hoping to find solutions to the problem. So Victoria, tell me, what do you expect, or what do you want people to gain from the book studies?
Well, I appreciate that it's an open space for discussion. So there are it's upfront at the beginning that it's no judgment, and we can disagree without being disagreeable. So I look forward to the discovery that happens when people feel safe to be honest, to say, I didn't notice that. I was not aware of that. I'm frustrated because I don't know how to solve that. So if we can come together and discuss openly the issues and the challenges, and if we can discover together where some of these issues and challenges have come from, then maybe, in part, that is how we move toward solutions, or at least trying things.
So I can feel your passion. So I can feel it. So what was the motivational piece that pushed you into this?
Well, my background is in the arts, and I consider that a gift from my mom. And so I was in an environment with creative people my whole life, different races, different passions, different upbringings. So that exposure was a gift to me. And so then as an adult after college, when I was looking for, where to find my voice, where to feel good, where I fit in community, I gravitated toward circles of creative people. And what I found in that journey toward creative people is that it's not all just artists or the arts as we traditionally think about them. Mm-hmm. It is the intersections between art, activism, community. And so that's what led me to the collective in the first place. And one of the things that has kept me engaged is there are constantly ideas and hopes and dreams and possibilities that exist, and a group of collaborators who are linked in shared values. And so even when it seems a bit, well, we've got a podcast, we've got a zine, we've got an anti-racist book study, we've got family community art lessons, we've got all these things, and it can seem like a lot, but what has it linked together and what's keeping it together is those shared values and the desire to see change in our communities.
Okay. It's interesting that all this is happening during what we call Black History Month. So the book is entitled The Color of Law. Why did you choose that book?
Like I said before, we chose the book because of the message and because of the power to change things. And I just thought that if we read this book, if we talked to the teachers about looking inside this book and looking at what we could possibly do in terms of trying to deal with social injustices, then we could come together as a community, because this is all about community. We can't change anything on our own. It takes a long time to make changes. So as we come together as a community, look at where we are, because the question is, how did we get to where we are right now? And we have to look back in history and look at how all of these problems continue to exist because we hadn't worked out the one thing we need to deal with, which is racism. We try to go around racism, saying that racism is not the problem, but racism is the problem. Racism is a monster that's going to destroy America if America doesn't deal with it.
Wow.
We just can't continue to say that violence is not an issue. We're killing each other.
Okay. So after watching the show, a person says, man, that's a book study I want to be a part of. What can they do?
It's free. This book study is open to all. Everything we do is open to all. I would love to share my screen really quickly.
Go right ahead.
Many ways to get in touch. But we start at, if you're online and you go to your web browser and you type in tinyispowerful.com, you will land on this homepage. So Tiny is Powerful started as a project connected to by the Charleston Rhizome Collective. So you'll see this connected to reference. On the homepage, this is an interactive video. You can press play. There's a jingle by Curtis Lampkin. There are a lot of images and there are words that you can click on. So I invite you to do that. And if you go in the upper, on my computer, it's the upper right-hand corner of the screen to drop down a menu. And just 4 lines down, you'll see anti-racist book study. You could keep going. There's a lot to explore here. But if you click anti-racist book study on this page, you will then again have a brief description of the background, how the book study came to be, and you can just click this blue line to register. It is free, but registering in advance is how you get the link. It is happening virtual. If anyone wants to call in, you can also call in by telephone. So we aim to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. If another way you could participate in the study, you could email tinyispowerful@gmail.com and just mention book study, and I'm happy to guide you along to registering. You could call my cell phone if that is helpful, 843-209-7902. And I say that because, again, this digital space, it's great that we have the platform. The purpose of the platform is so that these resources can be accessed, but I understand that even this to some takes a few extra steps. So,
well, let me say this. Victoria Moore, Pamela Gibbs, we want to thank you for coming on Bounce Around Charleston and sharing this today about the anti-racist book study that's open to all. And we're going to hope that people will please be a part of this because, as you said, Pamela Gibbs, we must find a solution. And we want to say thank you again for being our guest on Bounce Around Charleston.